My son took his wife and Mill to dinner and tried to pay with my card. So I did this. I was in the middle of my weekly grocery shopping when my phone buzzed with a text notification. Nothing unusual about that. At 65 years old, I'd finally mastered the art of texting with my grandchildren, and my phone was constantly lighting up with memes I didn't understand and videos I'd watched just to feel connected to their world. But this text wasn't from any of my grandchildren. It was from my credit card company. Fraud alert. A charge of $847.63 at Bella Not Restaurant has been flagged as potentially fraudulent. If you did not authorize this charge, please reply fraud. If this charge is legitimate, reply confirm. I stared at the message, my hand frozen over a display of organic apples. Bella Not. That was the most expensive Italian restaurant in the city, the kind of place where a single entree could cost more than I typically spent on groceries for a week. I certainly hadn't been there. I was standing in a supermarket in my comfortable jeans and cardigan, not exactly Bella Not attire. But $847.63. For dinner, even at an expensive restaurant, that was excessive. That was champagne, appetizers, multiple courses, probably the kind of extravagant meal someone orders when they're trying to impress. My mind immediately went to the credit card I'd given my son Brandon, for emergencies only, 3 months ago. Brandon was 32 years old, married to Melissa for 2 years, and still figuring out how to be a financially responsible adult. He worked in sales, made decent money when he hit his targets, but had a tendency to spend beyond his means. Designer clothes, expensive electronics, a car lease that ate up a quarter of his salary. I'd raised him to be independent, to stand on his own 2 feet, but somewhere along the way, he'd gotten the impression that my wallet was an acceptable backup plan. The emergency credit card had been my attempt at a compromise. He'd asked if he could be added to one of my credit cards, just in case something comes up. I'd resisted at first, but he'd worn me down with stories about car troubles and unexpected expenses and the difficulties of building credit in today's economy. Just for emergencies, Mom, he'd promised. I won't use it unless I really need to. I'd given him a card linked to one of my accounts with a $5,000 limit. I'd made it very clear, medical emergencies, car emergencies, true crises only, not restaurants, not shopping, not entertainment. And certainly not an $847 dinner at the fanciest restaurant in town. I replied to the text, fraud. Immediately, another text came through. This card has been temporarily suspended. Please call our fraud department at your earliest convenience. I abandoned my shopping cart, something I'd never done in my entire life, and walked out of the store to my car. I sat in the driver's seat, engine off, and called the credit card company's fraud department. Mrs. Catherine Morrison. The representative had a kind voice, professional but sympathetic. Yes, that's me. I'm showing that you flagged a charge at Bella Not Restaurant for $847.63. Can you tell me about this charge? I didn't make it. I've never been to that restaurant, but I gave my son an emergency credit card on this account. I think he used it. I see. And was this an authorized use? Absolutely not. The card was for emergencies only. A fancy dinner is not an emergency. Understood. Mrs. Morrison, I'm looking at the charge details now. The transaction occurred approximately 40 minutes ago. The card is still at the restaurant. They haven't closed out the check yet. My mind raced. Brandon was still at the restaurant, still sitting there, probably finishing dessert, maybe ordering after-dinner drinks, completely oblivious to the fact that his mother knew exactly what he was doing. What happens now? I asked. Well, since you've reported this as fraud, we've suspended the card. When the restaurant tries to process the final charge, it will be declined. The cardholder will need to provide alternative payment. A slow smile spread across my face. Brandon was about to learn a very important lesson about the difference between emergencies and indulgences. Thank you, I said. That's exactly what should happen. We'll be sending you a new card within 5 to 7 business days. Is there anything else I can help you with today? No, I think this is going to resolve itself quite nicely. Thank you for the fraud alert. I hung up and sat in my car, imagining the scene that was about to unfold at Bella Knott. Brandon, probably stuffed with expensive pasta and wine, reaching for the card to pay. The waiter running it through. The awkward moment when it declined. The confusion. The embarrassment. The scrambling to find another way to pay. My phone rang. Brandon's name flashed on the screen. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Hello, dear. Mom. His voice was panicked, hushed, like he was trying not to be overheard. Mom, there's something wrong with the card. It's not working. The waiter said it's been declined. Oh, which card would that be? A pause, a very telling pause. The emergency card, the one you gave me. Ah, and why were you using the emergency card, Brandon? Is everything okay? Are you injured? Is Melissa hurt? Did your car break down? Another pause, longer this time. No, nothing like that. We were out to dinner and I thought I had my wallet, but I must have left it at home and… Brandon, I kept my voice level, calm. Don't lie to me. I know you didn't leave your wallet at home. I know you planned to use my card for this dinner. The credit card company sent me a fraud alert for an $847 charge at Bella Knott restaurant. Silence, then barely audible. Oh. Oh, indeed. So let me ask you again. Why were you using my emergency credit card to take yourself, your wife, and, let me guess, Melissa's mother out for an expensive dinner? Mom, I can explain. I'm sure you can. But right now, I think you need to figure out how you're going to pay for the meal you already ate. The card has been suspended. You're on your own. Mom, please. I don't have enough in my account to cover this. And Melissa's mom is here. This is so embarrassing. Yes, I imagine it is. Perhaps you should have thought about that before you decided to use my money to impress your mother-in-law. Mom, come on. You can't do this to me. Everyone's watching. The waiter is waiting. This is humiliating. Brandon, you did this to yourself. You took a card that was meant for emergencies and used it to fund a luxury dinner. That's called theft. I could report this as credit card fraud. In fact, I already did. I could hear voices in the background now. Melissa saying something sharp and urgent. Another woman's voice, probably Diane, Melissa's mother, asking what was going on. Mom, please, Brandon said, and there was real desperation in his voice now. I'm begging you, just this once. I'll pay you back. I swear I'll pay you back. How many times have I heard that before, Brandon? How many times have you promised to pay me back and never did? This is different. You're right, this is different. Because this time I'm not bailing you out. You're a grown man. You chose to spend money you didn't have. Now you get to deal with the consequences. I don't know what to do, his voice cracked. I don't have $800. My credit cards are maxed out. I'll have to wash dishes or something. Mom, please. For just a moment, I felt a pang of sympathy. He was my son, after all. My firstborn. The little boy I'd rocked to sleep and nursed through illnesses and cheered for at baseball games. But then I thought about all the times I'd bailaid him out before. The rent I'd paid when he was between jobs. The car payment I'd covered when his commission check was late. The wedding I'd essentially funded because he and Melissa deserved a perfect day. Every time, he'd promised it was the last time. Every time, he'd sworn he'd learned his lesson. And every time, within months, there was a new crisis, a new emergency, a new reason why he needed Mom's money. Well, not this time. Brandon, I love you, but I'm not helping you out of this situation. You're going to have to figure it out on your own. Call a friend. Have Melissa use her credit card. Ask Diane if she can help. I don't care what you do, but you're not using my money. I can't believe you're doing this to me. His voice rose, angry now instead of desperate. What kind of mother leaves her son stranded at a restaurant? The kind who's tired of being taken advantage of. The kind who wants her son to learn to be responsible. The kind who says no when necessary. Fine, he shouted. Fine, I'll figure it out myself, but don't expect me to call you anytime soon. Don't expect to see your grandchildren. We're done." He hung up on me. I sat in my car, phone in hand, and felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. Pure, absolute relief. For the first time in Brandon's adult life, I'd held my ground. I'd said no and meant it. And yes, it hurt. Yes, his words about keeping the grandchildren away stung. But I also knew that empty threats were Brandon's style when he didn't get his way. More importantly, I knew that if I kept enabling him, kept bailing him out, kept treating him like a child who couldn't handle adult responsibilities, he'd never learn. And at some point, I wouldn't be here anymore to save him. I started my car and drove home, leaving my abandoned grocery cart behind. I'd go back tomorrow. Right now, I needed to go home, pour myself a glass of wine, and prepare for whatever came next. Because I knew Brandon, and I knew this wasn't over. The phone calls started that evening, first from Melissa. "Catherine, how could you?" Her voice was cold, clipped. Melissa had never called me Mom the way some daughters-in-law did, and in moments like this, the formality felt like a weapon. "Do you have any idea how humiliating that was? We had to call Melissa's father to bring his credit card to the restaurant. Deanne was mortified. Brandon was absolutely devastated, all because you couldn't spare a few $100. $847, I corrected. And the issue isn't whether I can spare it. The issue is that Brandon used a credit card that was meant for emergencies to fund a luxury dinner. That's not what we agreed to. It was a special occasion. Diane is only in town for a few days. We wanted to take her somewhere nice. Then Brandon should have planned for that, should have saved money, should have made a reservation at a restaurant he could actually afford. God, you're so unreasonable. Melissa's voice rose. It's not like you can't afford it. You live in a huge house all by yourself. You have plenty of money. Would it kill you to help your son once in a while? I've helped Brandon plenty. I've been helping him his entire adult life. And what has it taught him? That Mom will always be there to clean up his messes. Well, not anymore. You're being cruel. I'm being a parent. There's a difference. Melissa hung up on me too. The next call came from Diane, Melissa's mother. I'd only met Diane a handful of times. She lived across the country and visited rarely. She was a woman in her early 60s who dressed too young for her age and had the kind of fake sweet voice that set my teeth on edge. "Catherine, dear, I think there's been a terrible misunderstanding," she began, syrupy and condescending. "No misunderstanding, Diane. Brandon used my credit card without permission. I had it suspended. Pretty straightforward. But the poor boy was just trying to treat us to a nice meal. He wanted to impress me, to show me that he could provide for my daughter. And you humiliated him in front of everyone." Brandon humiliated himself by spending money he didn't have. Well, I think you should know that Melissa is very upset. She's questioning whether this marriage can work if your family is going to be so unsupportive. There it was, the threat. The implication that if I didn't fall in line, if I didn't open my wallet and play the role of the endlessly giving mother, I'd lose my son and grandchildren. "Diane," I said carefully, "I love my son. I love my grandchildren. But love doesn't mean enabling bad behavior. If Melissa is questioning her marriage because I won't fund Brandon's expensive dinners, then perhaps they have bigger problems than my credit card. I'm just saying, family should help family. That's what we do in my family. And in my family, we teach our children to be responsible for their own choices. Different families, different values." She hung up too, but not before making a huffing sound of indignation. I waited for Brandon to call back, but he didn't. Not that night, not the next day. Radio silence. My daughter called instead. Emily, my younger child, 2 years younger than Brandon, had always been the responsible one. She'd paid her own way through college, bought her own car, never asked for handouts. She'd married a good man, had 2 beautiful children, and lived within her means. "Mom, what happened with Brandon?" she asked. "I got a very angry text from him saying you abandoned him at a restaurant and ruined his life." I explained the situation, the emergency card, the $847 dinner, the declined charge. Emily was quiet for a moment. Then she started laughing, actually laughing. "Oh my God, Mom, that's amazing. You actually did it. You actually said no to Brandon." "It wasn't easy." "I bet, but good for you. Do you know how many times I've wanted to tell him to stop mooching off you? But I knew you'd just tell me to stay out of it." "You wouldn't have been wrong. This was my decision to make." "So what's he saying? Is he still speaking to you?" "Not at the moment. He's angry. Melissa's angry. Even Diane is angry, apparently." "Let them be angry. Maybe Brandon will finally learn that actions have consequences. Or maybe he'll just find someone else to enable him." "Maybe," Emily agreed, "but at least it won't be you." After I hung up with Emily, I sat in my living room. My large, empty living room that Melissa had pointed out I rattled around in by myself, and thought about the choices I'd made. When my husband David died 10 years ago, he'd left me well provided for. Life insurance, his pension, our savings. I'd sold the business we'd built together and invested wisely. I was comfortable. Not wealthy by any means, but comfortable enough that I didn't have to worry about bills or retirement or unexpected expenses. And I'd shared that comfort with my children, helped them when they needed it, supported them through hard times. But somewhere along the way, with Brandon at least, helping had become enabling. Every problem became my problem. Every shortfall became my responsibility. I'd created this situation by never saying no, by always being there to catch him when he fell, by making it easy for him to be irresponsible because he knew Mom would always bail him out. Wells, no more. I went to my computer and drafted an email to Brandon, Melissa, and copied Emily for transparency. "Dear Brandon and Melissa, after the events of yesterday, I think it's important to clarify a few things. When I gave Brandon the emergency credit card 3 months ago, we agreed it was for emergencies only. Medical expenses, car trouble, true crises. An $847 dinner at an expensive restaurant is not an emergency. I understand you're upset that the card was declined. I understand it was embarrassing. But those consequences are the direct result of Brandon's choice to use the card inappropriately. Going forward, I will no longer be providing financial support to Brandon beyond what is already agreed upon, the grandchildren's birthday and Christmas gifts, which I will continue. No more bailouts, no more loans that never get repaid, no more emergency funds for non-emergencies. This is not because I don't love you. This is because I do love you, and I want Brandon to learn to be financially independent and responsible. I hope you can understand and respect this boundary. I'm always here to talk, to offer advice, to spend time with you and the grandchildren. But I'm not here to be an ATM. Love, Mom." I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The response was immediate, from Melissa, not Brandon. "You're cutting off your own son. Unbelievable. Don't be surprised when we don't come around anymore." From Brandon, 10 minutes later. "Thanks for nothing, Mom. Really appreciate you abandoning your family when we needed you most." And from Emily. "Good for you, Mom. Stick to your guns. They'll come around eventually. And if they don't, that says more about them than it does about you." I closed my laptop and went to bed, wondering if I'd just made the best or worst decision of my parenting life. 3 weeks went by without a word from Brandon or Melissa. No calls, no texts, no updates on the grandchildren. It was the longest we'd gone without speaking since Brandon had been born 32 years ago. I went about my life, had lunch with friends, attended my book club, volunteered at the library. Saw Emily and her family every Sunday for dinner, played with my grandchildren from that side of the family. But Brandon's absence was a constant presence, a weight I carried everywhere I went. My friends noticed. "You seem distracted, Catherine," Margaret said over coffee one afternoon. Margaret had known me for 20 years, since our kids had been in school together. She knew all about Brandon's financial irresponsibility because her own son had similar issues. "Brandon and I aren't speaking," I admitted. "I cut him off financially, and he's angry about it." "Good for you. I wish I had the strength to do the same with Aaron. He's 40 years old and still asking me for gas money. But what if he never forgives me? What if I never see my grandchildren again? Margaret reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Catherine, if your relationship with your son is conditional on how much money you give him, then it's not a real relationship. It's a transaction, and you deserve better than that. But he's my son. And you're his mother, not his bank. You did the right thing. Give him time. He'll come around when he realizes you mean it. But would he? Or would Brandon simply write me off, decide I wasn't worth the trouble if I wasn't going to fund his lifestyle? The answer came 4 weeks after the restaurant incident, and it came from an unexpected source. I was at the grocery store, back to my regular shopping routine after abandoning that cart a month earlier, when I ran into Diane, Melissa's mother, the woman whose dinner I'd refused to fund. She spotted me in the produce section and made a beeline straight for me, her face set in determined lines. Catherine, we need to talk. I straightened my shoulders. Hello, Diane. I'm a bit busy at the moment. I'll only take a minute. I need to apologize. That stopped me. Apologize? Yes. She glanced around, then lowered her voice. Can we talk somewhere more private? We ended up in the store's small cafe area, sitting at a table with mediocre coffee and the hum of grocery store activity around us. I judged you too quickly, Diane began. That night at the restaurant and afterward, I thought you were being cruel and stingy. But I've been staying with Brandon and Melissa for the past month, and I've seen things that concern me. What kind of things? The way they spend money, the shopping trips where Melissa buys things they don't need, the constant ordering of food delivery instead of cooking, the brand new furniture they bought on credit even though the old furniture was perfectly fine. She paused, stirring her coffee. And the way they talk about you. My stomach tightened. What do they say? That you're selfish, that you're rich and won't share, that you owe Brandon support because you're his mother. Melissa says you should sell your house and move into a smaller place so you can give them the difference. Deanne looked up at me, her expression troubled. Catherine, I'm not blind to my daughter's faults, but I raised her better than this. This entitlement, this expectation that you should fund their lifestyle, it's not healthy. No, I agreed quietly. It's not. I tried talking to them about budgeting, about living within their means. Brandon got defensive and said I didn't understand how expensive it is to maintain their lifestyle. Their lifestyle. As if having expensive taste is the same as having a legitimate need. How did you leave things with them? I cut my visit short, told them I needed to get back home for. Honestly, I made up an excuse. I couldn't stay there anymore, watching them blame everyone else for their financial problems while simultaneously shopping online and ordering expensive dinners. She reached across the table and touched my hand. I'm sorry I called you unsupportive. You were right. They needed to face consequences for their choices. Thank you for saying that. Have you heard from them at all? Not a word in a month. Brandon said I shouldn't expect to see my grandchildren. Diane's face darkened. He's using those children as leverage. That's manipulation, Catherine, pure manipulation. I know, but what can I do? I won't give in to manipulation, but I also don't want to lose my grandchildren. Give it time. Brandon will run out of money eventually, and when he does, he'll come crawling back. The question is, what will you do when he does? That question haunted me for the next 2 weeks. What would I do? Would I stand firm, maintain my boundaries, risk losing them entirely? Or would I cave, just a little, just enough to keep them in my life? The answer came sooner than I expected. It was a Tuesday morning when my phone rang with Brandon's number. 6 weeks since the restaurant incident. 6 weeks of silence. I stared at the phone for 3 rings, debating whether to answer. Finally, I picked up. Hello. Mom. His voice was small, subdued. Nothing like the angry, entitled tone from our last conversation. Mom, I need help. My heart sank. Here it was. The moment I'd been dreading and expecting in equal measure. What kind of help, Brandon? Our car got repossessed. Last night. They just showed up and took it. Melissa's in tears. I don't know what to do. We're behind on so many payments, and I tried to work out a deal with them, but they wouldn't listen, and now we have no car and I can't get to work and... He was rambling, panicked, the words tumbling out in a rush. Brandon, slow down. Tell me exactly what's happening. He took a shaky breath. We're 3 months behind on the car payment. I kept meaning to catch up, but there was always something else that needed to be paid first. They sent notices, but I thought I had more time. And now the car's gone and I have a presentation this afternoon for a major client and I can't get there. And if I miss it, I'll probably lose my job and then we won't be able to pay anything. Stop, I said firmly. Just stop, take a breath. He went quiet. Brandon, how much do you owe on the car? Total or just to get it back? Both. Total is about $28,000. To get it back, we'd need to pay the $3,800 we're behind on, plus the repossession fees, probably $4,500 total. $4,500. $1 phone call, 1 transfer, and I could fix this problem for him. Make it all go away. And teach him absolutely nothing. Mom, are you still there? I'm here, I'm thinking. I know you're mad at me. I know I screwed up with your credit card. But Mom, I'm desperate. I need this car. I need my job. I need help. There was something in his voice that got to me. Not the manipulation I'd heard before, not the entitled expectation. This was genuine fear, genuine desperation. But giving him the money wouldn't solve the underlying problem. It would just delay the next crisis. Brandon, I'm not going to give you $4,500 to get your car back. Mom, please. Let me finish. I'm not going to give you the money, but I am going to help you figure out how to handle this situation. First question, do you have anything you can sell? What? Furniture, electronics, jewelry, anything of value. Can you sell anything to raise money? I don't know, maybe. We have a lot of stuff, but I never thought about selling it. Second question, can you borrow a car from anyone? A friend, a coworker, anyone? Maybe Jake from work. He has an extra car he barely uses. Good, call him. Explain the situation. See if you can borrow it for a week or 2 while you figure things out. Third question, have you and Melissa actually sat down and made a budget? A real budget with all your income and all your expenses laid out. Not really. We kind of just pay things as they come up. That's your first problem. You need to know exactly where your money is going. Every dollar. Fourth question, are you willing to make some hard changes? Cut cable, stop eating out, cancel subscriptions, downsize your lifestyle. There was a long pause. I don't want to live like that. Brandon, you can't afford to live any other way. You just had your car repossessed. You're behind on payments. This isn't about what you want. This is about what you need to do to survive. But everyone we know lives a certain way. We can't be the poor couple who has nothing. And there it was, the real issue. Not that Brandon couldn't afford his lifestyle, but that he couldn't stand the idea of looking like he couldn't afford it. Brandon, I'm going to be very honest with you. Right now, you are the couple who has nothing. Your car was repossessed. You're behind on payments. You're one missed paycheck away from disaster. The question is, are you going to face that reality and make changes, or are you going to keep pretending everything is fine until you lose everything? Silence on the other end. I can't do this for you, I continued. I won't give you money to fix this problem, but I will help you learn to fix it yourself. I'll sit down with you and Melissa and help you create a budget. I'll help you figure out what you can sell, what expenses you can cut, how you can dig yourselves out of this hole. But you have to want to change. You have to be willing to do the hard work. What if I can't? His voice cracked. What if I try and I still fail? Then you fail, and you learn from it and you try again. That's life, Brandon. There are no guarantees. But I can guarantee that if you keep doing what you've been doing, things will only get worse. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, can you help me today with the presentation? I really can't miss it. Call Jake about borrowing his car. If that doesn't work, call me back and I'll drive you myself. But Brandon, this is the last time I bail you out of a crisis. From now on, you figure out your own transportation, your own emergencies. I'm here to advise and support, but I'm not here to be your safety net anymore." "Okay," he whispered. "Okay, thank you, Mom." He hung up, and I sat there wondering if I'd done the right thing. Wondering if this would finally be the wake-up call he needed, or if he'd just find another way to avoid responsibility. Only time would tell. 2 days later, Brandon called and asked if he and Melissa could come over to talk. To go over their finances, to get help making a budget, to figure out how to get back on track. I agreed with one condition. Emily would be there too. "Why Emily?" Brandon asked, defensive. "Because Emily has successfully managed her own finances for years, because she has good insights, and because I want a witness to whatever we discuss today." He didn't like it, but he agreed. They arrived on Saturday afternoon. Brandon looked tired, defeated. Melissa looked angry, her arms crossed over her chest as she sat on my couch. Emily arrived shortly after, carrying her laptop and a supportive smile. "Okay," I said once everyone was settled. "Let's start with the basics. Brandon, Melissa, what's your combined monthly income?" Brandon fidgeted. "About $6,500 after taxes. It varies depending on my commission, but that's average." "And your monthly expenses?" "I don't know exactly." "Then we're going to figure it out. Right now. Emily, can you pull up a spreadsheet?" For the next 2 hours, we went through every expense. Mortgage payment, car payment, or lack thereof now, insurance, utilities, groceries, gas, phone bills, subscriptions. The list went on and on. What we discovered was staggering. Brandon and Melissa were spending nearly $8,000 a month while bringing in $6,500. They were going $1,500 deeper into debt every single month and had been for over a year. "How is that even possible?" Emily asked, genuinely baffled. "Credit cards," Melissa mumbled. "We've been using credit cards to cover the difference." "And how much credit card debt do you have?" Melissa looked at Brandon. Brandon looked at the floor. "Around $45,000, he finally said. Emily's eyes went wide. I felt my blood pressure spike. $45,000 in credit card debt, I repeated. And you didn't think this was a problem. We were planning to pay it off when Brandon's commission checks got bigger, Melissa said defensively. Or when I got a better job, or when we got our tax refund. We had plans. Plans aren't the same as action, Emily said bluntly. You've been spending $1,500 more than you make every month. That's not sustainable. That's not even close to sustainable. We started going through their expenses line by line, looking for cuts. Cable package, $180 month. You can stream for $30, I said. Gym memberships, $150 month. You can work out at home or run outside. Food delivery and restaurants, averaging $600 month. You need to cook at home. Car lease payment, $450 month. When this lease is up, you buy a used car with cash. Subscription services, Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, various apps, $85 month. Pick 2, cancel the rest. New clothes shopping, averaging $300 month. Stop, completely, for at least 6 months. By the time we finished, we'd identified nearly $2,000 in monthly savings if they made serious lifestyle changes. This is insane, Melissa said, her voice rising. You want us to live like we're in poverty. No eating out, no cable, no new clothes. What's the point of working if we can't enjoy our lives? The point of working is to support yourselves, Emily said. Not to dig yourselves deeper into debt so you can look successful. Easy for you to say. You and Chris make way more than we do. We make about the same, Emily corrected. The difference is we don't spend money we don't have. We don't lease cars we can't afford. We don't order takeout every other night. So we're supposed to be miserable, so we can be financially responsible. You're confusing temporary sacrifice with permanent misery, I interjected. If you make these changes now, cut expenses aggressively, pay down your debt, you can eventually go back to having some of these things. But right now, you're drowning. You need to cut expenses or you're going to lose everything. Brandon had been quiet through most of this, but now he spoke up. What about the car? How are we supposed to get around without a car? I've been thinking about that, I said. Here's my proposal. I will loan you my second car. I had David's old car still sitting in my garage, a reliable sedan I'd kept for sentimental reasons. But there are conditions. What conditions? First, you follow this budget exactly. Every dollar accounted for. Second, you check in with me every week to show me your progress. Third, if I find out you've been hiding purchases or lying about expenses, I take the car back immediately. And fourth, once you've saved enough to buy your own used car with cash, probably 6 to 8 months if you stick to the budget, you give me my car back. Melissa was shaking her head. You'd make us report to you like children, weekly check-ins. That's so controlling. Those are my terms. Take them or leave them. We'll take them, Brandon said quickly. Mom, thank you, really, thank you. Melissa shot him a furious look, but said nothing. One more thing, I added. I want you both to take a financial literacy course. There's one.